Well, hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Rimcast. We're back on the Rimcraft server, and today I've got something to show off, and the occasion is, it is my birthday. I'm recording this in November, which is when I was born, and I decided that for my birthday, I would make a giant birthday cake. And not only would this be a giant birthday cake, but it would be a farm complete with all the ingredients to make my favorite dessert. So let me just show you a little of how it works. I go grab some wheat, I go grab some eggs, I go grab some sugar, and I grab some cans for milk. We'll milk our cow 3 times. Did I get 3? 1, 2, 3. Yep. Then we'll come over here, arrange the milk, and the egg, and the sugar, and the wheat. And boom, there's my birthday cake. Now, this farm is as close to fully automatic as you can get with birthday cake. Let me show you a little bit of what I mean by that. On this layer, we have a farm that has sugarcane, wheat, and chickens walking around. And we've got a villager here who picks all of the wheat. And then, if you listen carefully, you can hear the rumbling of a minecart. Yes, there's a minecart underneath the farm in the same way that there was a minecart underneath the pumpkin farm. Unfortunately, that layer is all hidden, so I can't show you the minecart right this second. At any rate, the minecart zigzags across this floor, picking up everything in that farm, placing it in this loop of hoppers that go in a full circle. That loop of hoppers hooks up to an item sorter, so my item sorter has 4 sorting buckets. 1 for seeds, 1 for wheat, 1 for eggs, and 1 for sugarcane. Unfortunately, there isn't yet a way to fully automatic produce all of the milk, so that's the one ingredient that we have to go get ourselves from the cow. Turned out I had a little extra room after building this farm, so I went ahead and built Monkey Farm's cocoa bean farm. This is just like his farm, but it's 2 blocks shorter, and I take the redstone circuitry and turn it off to the side. There is a button, which I click, which instantly harvests all of the cocoa beans, and now I can use those cocoa beans to create cookies. The only dessert left is pumpkin pie, and I decided not to bake a pumpkin pie farm into this building, only on account of the fact that I already have a wildly productive pumpkin farm as it stands. So we'll just put away... Actually, let's go ahead and make some cookies. Here we are. Cocoa beans, wheat, and we'll get some cookies. Great. So I've been using these chests over here to store the extras, because I don't actually like to travel with cookies. They don't fill you up enough. But that is the farm. Now, what I'd like to do with this tutorial is... Oh my heavens, where do I put my extra eggs? There we go. What I'd like to do with this tutorial is copy my farm off into a creative world so that I can show you all the pieces and how they work. Alright, welcome to my creative world. I learned something after I pasted this thing in here. My frosting on the top I had made out of snow, because if you place 2 layers of snow deep, then that surface won't spawn any mobs, no matter how poorly lit it is. However, in this creative world, I must be in a different biome because all my snow melted, and now I have a cake with a big wood top. It sure looked a lot better with frosting on it, but, well, it's the creative world. I'll live with it. So anyhow, for the top of the cake, I used red wool and glass to create all the berries that show in the cake texture, and then used 2 layers of snow thick to make all of the frosting on top. The frosting layer is made out of wool, and I did the wool because the clay just wasn't vibrant enough to look like frosting. The rest of the cake I did with wool, with clay, just because I felt like the rugged, dry look of the brown clay was perfect for the texture of a cake. Everything else is just show, including the shelves with cakes ready to eat. And so let's peel off the top layer here and take a look at how I harvest the sugarcane. Okay, there we are. Here is the layer underneath the frosting. And we have right here an Ethonian hopper clock. We built one of these for the pumpkin farm. This clock has an output off of each side, and so when the hopper clock switches, it will pulse a charge down this wire on one side or the other. Those wires are hooked up to... Oh, come on, get down there. There we go. Those wires are hooked up to the pistons that are positioned one block up from where the sugarcane goes. For whatever reason, it looks like the sugarcane did not copy into my creative world. Oh well. These rows of dirt would be filled with sugarcane, and when they're too tall, these pistons will pulse out, first one side, then the other, on a clock. Great. Now that we've got that layer peeled off, let's take a look at the minecart layer. Okay, here we are with the hopper track. The hopper track was designed to go under every square of farmland and the squares that had the sugarcane on it. It's just a continuous ziggy-zaggy thing. I used switches in places like here and here in order to power the rail on the side. And I find that switches are the cheapest way to do it. They don't take any redstone. They only take cobblestone and sticks, so they're real easy to produce in bulk. Anyway, I did have one spot I couldn't put a switch right here because there was a water block above, and so if I broke this out to place a switch there, we would have flooded everything. So at any rate, well, the brick I just broke had a switch underneath it which powered the rail. So anyhow, every time the rail would pass across this hopper section right here, these hoppers would send the items in a continuous loop to be sorted below. Let's take a look at the item sorter next. Okay, here we are down to the item sorter. The item sorter is pretty bread and butter for item sorters. You have a hopper. That hopper feeds into a comparator. The comparator charges this wire. And basically what happens is anytime that the comparison chamber has more items than this, then there'll be enough charge to power this and the repeater, which turn off the torch and let the item through the system. And you program it merely by filling it with the item that you want to sort and have the majority of the items in the first slot. So here's for the sugarcane. The next slot was for the eggs, the next slot was for the seeds, and the final slot was for the wheat. Now, I'll confess I'm not terribly proud of what I did with the design from here because I used a lot of hoppers, but I'll show you why. First off, I used this one sorter mechanism in order to fill the bulk storage for all of the sugarcane. So this item feeds into a hopper, into a hopper, into a hopper, and so there's 3 columns of sugarcane that get filled there. The eggs go the other direction. You can see this hopper moves to the side, this way and this way, so there's 3 stacks of chests for the eggs. The sugarcane only has the 1, and then finally the wheat. We come over, and over, so we've got 5 stacks of chests of wheat. I was concerned about when this system fills up, because it is fully AFK and it will fill up eventually. When it fills up, will this circle of hoppers be continually moving items back and forth, and will that produce a bunch of lag on my server? I didn't know, and I didn't especially want to go fill all these up with items in order to test, so I just built an overflow mechanism. So the wheat has an overflow that goes down into this chest and will eventually go down into an item disposal, which I'll show off. Likewise, the sugarcane comes into a downward chest here, and the overflow for the seeds and the eggs comes down this set of chests in the back, which necessitated this little chimney structure in order to conceal it. Anyway, that is the sorter mechanism, and if we bust through, you can see the stacks of chests that they all come down into. We'll clear out some of this that hides. Whoops. That hides where you can see all the hoppers coming down. So you can see I used a lot of hoppers. I probably used, I don't know, 2-3 stacks of iron blocks in order to produce all of these. So very expensive the way that I put it together. But I do have an iron golem farm, so iron comes to me cheap. And finally, this design really could be done much simpler with far fewer chests if you weren't going for the big grand display that I've done here. All right, let's finish off with this part of the farm before we look at the cookie farm by showing you the disposal underneath. Oh my heavens. I think the way that I copied with MC Edit has left us with the floor of the MC Edit world kind of in our way. Alright, so we'll dig that out of the way. It's not like this in my creative world, but I'm alright with that. Here we go. So the basic idea is this. Those downward chests coming from the eggs and the seeds eventually feed down into this dropper. Likewise, there's a row of hoppers coming from each corner where the overflow for the wheat and the sugar came from. So here's the overflow for the sugar, and the overflow for the wheat is on this side. Oops, I just broke part of the overflow. And feeds into here. So at any rate, all of them feed down into this hopper, or dropper. And if you put items in the dropper, the clock pulses, immediately getting rid of everything inside. This clock is identical to the clock we used for the item elevator in the pumpkin farm tutorial. Now, underneath this block is lava, so it immediately gets rid of all of the items that overflow. And then I don't worry about them clogging up the hopper track and producing any lag on my server. So there we have it. That is the as fully automatic as I think you can get cake farm, complete with a large item sorter. So to finish this off, let's take a look at my modified design of Monkey Farm's cocoa bean farm. Now, the way the cocoa bean farm works is it uses block updates so that when you pulse this tree stalk up and down, it breaks all the seeds that are on it. Now, Monkey Farm's design was especially neat because he would have 6 blocks of wood, which you could reach all of them and plant them and harvest them all from ground level, and would pulse them up and down. In order to fit things in my farm so that they wouldn't interfere with the minecart track that was above, I had to have a much shorter tree. So I only have 4 blocks. The other change I made, and by the way, I'll link Monkey Farm's tutorial in the description because I hate to reproduce work that was already so perfectly done. But what I did is I took the farm and I turned it sideways. His was all produced in one long line, and so this line of torches would probably be right about here. But I took that line and I turned it sideways, and had to do a little bit of finagling since I had it 2 blocks shorter. I needed my torches to line up different in order to make sure that this was powered off when things pulse. But at any rate, you can start to see the idea. If I take this off and this off, you can see the dot of redstone here, and if I pulse, that pushed everything up. The one above pushed everything back down, but you can see that the power was still on for this block leading into the tree trunk. And that meant that it was poised, ready for a block update. And that's the magic of how this thing gets harvested. So, anyhow, I'll link to Monkey Farm's tutorial because it's fabulous. Just wanted you to see how my design was a tiny little bit different, definitely smaller. But I get 32 cocoa beans net increase after I harvest this and replant. And that's enough to make 4 stacks of cookies, far more than I ever actually really make. So that farm has been more than adequate for my needs. Anyhow, there it is, my birthday farm, fully dismantled for your pleasure. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments, and do like, favorite, and or subscribe, and keep Minecrafting. Thank you.